I'm Sable Kestrel, and I used to think that my coding could make a difference. I remember the day I first walked into the big Seattle building of High-End Dynamics. It was 11 years ago. I had a used laptop in my bag. It was old and slow, but it still worked. My heart was full of hope. I wanted to succeed. I wanted to do something important. I grew up in a small town in western Pennsylvania. It was a Rust Belt town, which meant many factories had closed down and people didn't have much money. My family didn't have enough money to buy a computer. We didn't even have Wi-Fi. Sometimes we had to go to the library just to use a computer. So, I taught myself how to code. I learned Python in a dusty public library. The library smelled like old books and quiet rooms. The computer screens were a little dim, but I didn't care. I spent hours typing and learning. I practiced again and again until my fingers knew what to do. Every program I made felt like something strong and lasting. Like a building. Like a bridge. Like a cathedral. A cathedral is a huge, beautiful building that lasts for hundreds of years. That's how I felt about my work. I believed it would last. My cathedral was High-End's data platform. A platform is like a big system that helps many other programs work. High-End's platform was used by many people. It helped them move and store data and keep everything running smoothly. I worked on it for years. I poured my heart into it. I gave it my all. I skipped vacations. I worked through the night. I stopped seeing friends. I stopped taking care of myself. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to prove that I belonged there. I wanted to show the world I could do something amazing. Then, one rainy Tuesday morning, everything disappeared. I woke up to an email. It was short. It was cold. It didn't say much. Your position has been terminated. That's all it said. No name. No reason. No explanation. Just a cold message and a locked-out company Slack account. Slack is a place where people at work talk to each other. It was like someone had pulled the rug out from under me. 11 years of work suddenly became nothing. I sat on the couch in my small apartment in Capitol Hill. I had a spoon halfway to my mouth. I was eating dry oatmeal from a cracked bowl. The oatmeal was boring and tasteless. My pajamas hadn't been washed in a week. The room smelled like old clothes and sadness. The only sound was the soft hum of my old air purifier. It made a steady noise like a tiny fan. It was the only thing that felt normal. My laptop was open. I was looking at a freelancing website. The site was full of job listings. But the jobs were weird. They wanted young people who would work for free. The listing said, AI or ML ninja must relocate. Equity only. Free snacks. I almost laughed. It was ridiculous. How could someone be a ninja and also work for free? Then I saw a headline on a tech news site. I had opened the site out of habit, like a habit that never stopped. The headline said, High-End merger collapses over software rights dispute. My breath stopped. High-End had been talking about a huge deal for months. They said they were going to merge with a company called High-End. The deal was worth $600 million. That's a lot of money. People had been celebrating. People had been bragging. Now the deal is dead. It failed because of a legal problem. A dispute over software rights. That means they couldn't agree on who owned the software. The words core architecture conflict jumped off the screen. My eyes stared at them. Core architecture. That meant the main system. The backbone. The thing that held everything together. I knew what that meant. I was an architect. I had written that backbone. Every function. Every patch. Every line. I had built the system. I had been the one who kept it alive. A chill went through me. They couldn't erase me. Not really. The next morning, something was under my door. An envelope. It was heavy and thick. It looked important. My name was typed on the front in sharp letters. The paper was from a law firm called Carson and Adler LLP. They were corporate lawyers in San Francisco. I opened it with shaking hands. Dear Miss Kestrel, the letter began. It said, We represent Arion Technologies regarding the proposed acquisition of High-End Dynamics. We are requesting a meeting to discuss your rights in relation to patent No. US 10,456,789, which lists you as the sole inventor. Patent. I didn't even remember filing one. I opened my laptop. My hands were trembling. I typed the number into the USPTO database. USPTO is a place where all patents are stored. The page loaded slowly because my internet was slow and cheap. Then there it was. My name. Plain as day. My design. My code. My signature from an HR form from years ago. They thought I would stay silent. They thought I would fade away. But if High-End wanted to move forward, they were going to have to go through me. And this time I set the rules. There it was. Dynamic Cloud Load Optimization Framework. My name, Sabelar Kestrel, was listed as the only inventor. No high-end. No co-developers. Just me. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even remember filing a patent. How could I have forgotten something so important? Then I remembered. It was almost 6 years ago. I had signed a stack of forms. A lot of papers. I was tired. I was busy. It felt like a normal day. But the papers had been handed to me by Dr. Draven Callis. Draven was my mentor. He was the former CTO of High-End. CTO means Chief Technology Officer. He was the boss of all the technology work. He was the kind of guy who solved big problems on napkins during coffee breaks. He wore old blazers like armor. He looked like he was ready to fight for what he believed in. He had been forced out of the company when the suits took over. When the big bosses came in and started making all the decisions. He handed me a folder. Just in case, he said. He looked around like the walls had ears. Like someone might be listening. You don't wait for a storm to board the windows, he muttered. I thought he was being dramatic. Now I realized he had seen it coming. I remembered the moment he appeared in my cubicle. He was limping from a hiking injury that never healed. His ID badge was clipped to his belt loop because he said lanyards were for bureaucrats. He tossed the folder onto my desk and said, "You're filing this patent yourself." "Draven, that's the legal team's job," I protested. "I sent the specs weeks ago. They'll put it through." "No," he said. "They'll bury it." He stared at me. "File it under a team name and pin it to Soren's chest when the deal goes public." Soren was the CEO of High-End. Soren Vale. He was a man who could smile and charm people, but he was also sneaky and selfish. I hesitated. I was just a senior developer. Not a founder. Not a big boss. Not a C-level player. "They'll reject it," I told him. "Then they'll forget," he replied. "Which is exactly what we want." So I did it. I filled out the paperwork late one Friday night. I used my home address. I listed myself as the sole creator. I attached the diagrams Draven helped polish. Then I tucked it away and went back to debugging integration pipelines for the next 5 years, forgetting that tiny act of rebellion. Until now. Back in my apartment, I paced the hardwood floors. Each creak sounded louder than the last. It felt like the floor was telling on me. My cat Glyph pawed at the thick envelope like it was a toy mouse. My brain spun as I stared again at the patent page. This wasn't just protection. This was leverage. Leverage means power. It means having something that gives you control. Draven didn't just save my code. He gave me a fuse. High-End had just lit it. They had fired me thinking they were clearing the path for a smooth acquisition. They didn't know I held the patent that propped up their entire infrastructure. They had cut me loose. But my silence was temporary. That night I didn't sleep. I scribbled notes across old post-its. I traced system flows on the back of takeout menus. I reread every API call from the original framework. I wanted to remember every line of code they tried to erase. I wanted to remember every part of the system they thought they owned. At 3:17 a.m., I stopped and stared at the glowing patent ID on my screen. This wasn't just my work. This was my proof. Come morning, when I walked into that meeting with Arion's legal team, High-End wouldn't just see the girl they fired. They would see the woman who owned the system their future depended on. And this time, I wouldn't be writing anyone else's legacy. Just my own. They'd handed me a weapon. High-End had cut me loose to clear the runway for their $600 million merger, not knowing I held the patent that supported their entire system. The email stopped. Slack access vanished. But my silence was temporary. I needed Draven Callis. At 7:02 a.m., my phone lit up. A 415 area code. San Francisco. High-End HQ. My stomach dropped. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. The ping made me jump. Sable. It's Soren. The voice slid out smooth and fake-friendly. Soren Vale. Hi, CEO. A man who could sell you a dream while stealing your house keys. I hate how things ended. Let's reconnect. Water under the bridge, right? He chuckled awkwardly. There's been some confusion, he said. An old doc popped up. Something about a patent. You know that cloud balancing thing you helped with. Helped. I wrote every line of that system while Soren was off sipping scotch with Arion's board. I didn't call back. Instead, I texted the last number Draven ever gave me. It was buried in a goodbye email unread by most but saved by me. Draven, it said. That patent you pushed me to file. It's live. High-End wants it. Call me. He called at 1:53 a.m. sharp. Took them long enough, he rasped. That familiar gravel voice weathered and calm. They fired you before the merger, didn't they? I whispered, still curled on the couch. No reason. None. Classic, he spat. They thought they could wipe the slate, but that patent is the backbone, Sable. The whole house runs on it. Then he gave me a name. Thessaly Voss. An IP law specialist. IP means intellectual property. That means ideas and inventions. Thessaly had a reputation for turning corporate bullies into puddles. I dialed immediately. Is Voss? I asked. I'm Sable Kestrel. I think I own something high-end wants to bury. Her laugh was cool steel. Oh, sweetheart. You've got them by the throat, she said. She told me to forward everything. The certified letter. Soren's voicemail. The original patent documents. At noon, another envelope slid through my mail slot. I heard it fall softly onto the floor. I picked it up and saw that it was from Hyan's HR department. HR is the part of a company that handles people, jobs, and rules. The envelope felt heavier than the last one. The words inside were cold and sharp. They said I had proprietary materials on my laptop. That means they claimed I had something that belonged to the company. The letter also sounded like a threat. It was written like a warning, but it felt more like a scary message. They told me I could get into trouble if I didn't do what they wanted. I didn't want to handle this alone, so I sent the letter to Thessaly. She was my friend and my lawyer, and she always knew what to do. When Thessaly read it, she didn't panic. She just said, "They're bluffing." I asked, "What does that mean?" She explained, "They are pretending to be scary. They are trying to scare you so you will sign the patent away. But they don't really have the power they think they have." I felt something change inside me. For the first time since I got that termination email, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like I was replaceable. I felt powerful. It was like I had been a tiny person in a huge room, and suddenly the room got smaller, and I became the center of it. Thessaly quickly explained the plan. Hyan is grasping, she said. They are desperate. They are trying to scare you into giving them the patent before their company collapses. A patent is a legal paper that says you invented something. It gives you ownership. But it's already too late, Thessaly said calmly. She told me something that made my heart beat faster. Arion doesn't care about Hyan anymore, she said. They want you. They want the real inventor. And they want to deal with you directly. My mind started spinning. Yesterday, I was just another out-of-work developer. I was wearing old threadbare sweatpants. My bills were piling up. I was worried about money, about my mom, about everything. But today I was the one holding the key. I was the bottleneck. That means I was the person who could stop everything. I was the one who had the power. I called Draven again. Draven was the only person who could calm me down. He was always steady and strong. What do I do, Draven? I asked. They are offering severance. They are apologizing. They are even offering me a job. His voice came through like steel wrapped in static. It sounded hard, but it also sounded true. You don't negotiate with snakes, Sable, he said. You strike. They tossed you away after you built their kingdom. Now you hold the deed to the throne. He was right. I remembered all the nights I spent coding the framework. I did it through migraines. I did it through my mother's chemotherapy treatments. I did it through the times when my heart felt heavy and tired. I built their future. And they threw me away like I didn't matter. They didn't deserve my mercy. Thessaly scheduled a meeting with Arion for the next week. She told me to keep my head down until then. Let them overplay their hand, she said. That meant, don't react too fast. Let them make mistakes. Let them show their weakness. She was right. 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in over a year. Narina. Narina was someone I used to work with. We had spent many late nights debugging disasters together. Debugging is when you find mistakes in computer code and fix them. Narina had moved into middle management. That means she was no longer just a coder. She was now in a job where she managed people and projects. Her voice shook when she spoke. Sable, she said. Soren asked me to reach out. He wants to resolve things quietly. Soren Vale was the CEO of Hyan. He was the man who fired me with a blank email. I closed my eyes. Anger and sorrow mixed inside me like static in a radio. They were using Narina now. They were using her like they used me. Tell Soren to speak to my lawyer, I said, my voice steady. And Narina, I added softly. Don't let them use you the way they used me. I ended the call. My hands trembled. Not because I was scared. Because I felt powerful. That night, Thessaly forwarded me a message from Arion's legal team. They were ready to negotiate directly. No middleman. No Hyan. Just me. I felt a strange calm wash over me. The next week, I walked into the boardroom at Arion's downtown Seattle office. The room was huge. The walls were glass. The floors were shiny. Everything was clean and modern. It looked expensive. It felt like a place where important decisions were made. I wore the same black blazer I used to wear on code demo days. A demo is when you show your work to other people. Soren Vale was already seated across the table. He looked nervous. His collar was dark with sweat, even though he tried to look calm. 2 attorneys sat beside him. Attorneys are lawyers. They looked smug and quiet. Thessaly sat beside me. She was calm as fire contained in a bottle. She didn't show any fear. Soren offered me his rehearsed grin. It was the smile he used when he wanted people to like him. "Sable, great to see you," he said. "Let's clear this up. No drama, just progress." I didn't speak. I let him fill the silence. He talked about the past. He said I was always loyal and relentless. He said they regretted how things unfolded. Then he pushed a contract across the glass table. It offered money, a consultant title, credit in the press release. It was all the trimmings of being tolerated, not valued. "Let's fix this patent mix-up," he said. Thessaly didn't blink. "Mix-up?" she asked. "You mean the patent Miss Kestrel owns outright?" I leaned forward. Every word I spoke was calm, but sharp like a knife. "I built your platform, Soren," I said. "Every line of code. Every 2 a.m. hot fix while you were out driving your next luxury car." I paused. "You fired me with a blank email. No subject. No name. No decency. And now your deal is dead because you never even knew what you had." I pulled out my own document. It was a notice of exclusive talks with Arion. Soren stared at it. The blood drained from his face. I smiled just enough to be polite. "This isn't a negotiation, Soren," I said. "It's a handover. And I'm not the one sweating. They're licensing the patent from me," I continued. "You're not in the deal." Soren's face turned the color of old printer paper. His lawyers looked like someone had pulled the plug on their retainer. They looked like they had lost their money. "Sable, wait," he started. But I stood. Thessaly was already gathering our things. "Good luck with your board," I said coolly. "I hear they're not thrilled." We walked out. The silence we left behind was so heavy it felt like it could shatter glass. I didn't need his remorse. I had his collapse. My new office at Arion Technologies overlooks Elliott Bay. The Seattle skyline glimmers like the future finally said my name. The brushed steel plate on my door reads, Kestrel, Chief IP Strategist. No junior. No interim. No asterisk. Just me. 3 days later, Arion closed the deal. They bought the patent outright. Then they handed me a job offer with a number so huge I stared at it for 5 minutes before I even smiled. The signing bonus alone paid off my mom's medical debt. It paid off my college loans. And it left room for a down payment on a condo with real sunlight. I'm not budgeting oatmeal anymore. Meanwhile, high-end dynamics is unraveling. TechCrunch, VentureWire, and even the Journal Report are writing about their collapse. Lawsuits are pending. CEO Soren Vale is under investigation for corporate negligence. His empire is bleeding out in headlines. I got a voicemail from him. 48 seconds of regret. I never hit play. I forwarded it to Draven with a note. Me one. He sent back a gift of a wolf howling at the moon. I laughed. Then I deleted it all. Soren's voice holds no weight here because his world is ash. And I lit the match. Now I stand in my corner office, coffee in hand. Not gas station grounds. Not instant mix. Real beans roasted by a local co-op run by women in tech. A quiet luxury I once thought was silly. Now it's fuel. I don't feel like a queen on a throne. I don't feel like a destroyer. I feel free. Free from the grind that swallowed my 20s. Free from watching someone else get credit for the code I wrote through migraines and heartbreak. Free from begging to be seen. I'm not the girl in oversized sweatpants sobbing over broken bills anymore. I'm the woman who wrote the backbone of high-end systems and then walked away with its soul. Now I build something different. Not just cleaner code, but a cleaner future. High-end can drown in their stock options, their boardroom infighting, their damage control press tours. I have a future. And it looks nothing like their corner-cutting vision of progress. Every morning I walk into my new office, and it still stuns me. The quiet hum of a space that feels earned. The kind of calm you don't notice until you've lived in chaos. It's not just a job. It's a life I never let myself imagine when I was debugging code with tears in my eyes and stale cereal in my mug. Sometimes I think about my old cubicle at Hyen. The flickering fluorescent light. The peeling motivational poster. Soren's voice floated overhead, making promises he never intended to keep. That version of me, young, determined, afraid, still lives somewhere in my bones. But she's not driving anymore. Last week, I found an old photo tucked in a box I hadn't unpacked. A company holiday picture from my first year at Hyan. I'm in the back, half smile, half shy, like I still believed we were building something that mattered. Draven is in the shot too. His ID badge is on his shoe like always. He's smirking like he knew how it would all unfold. He saw the storm coming and handed me the umbrella. Now I'm building again at Arion. Yes, but more than that. A future where engineers like me don't get erased. Where brilliant minds aren't tossed aside to make way for someone's golf buddy. It's slower, but it's mine. Hyan's headlines are fading. Soren's probably somewhere crafting his next pitch deck. I don't care. I'm not angry anymore. I'm done. I have my coffee, my cat Glyph sleeping in a sunbeam, and the future that rose from the fire they tried to leave me in. That's enough.